Zack Semke, Director of Passive House Accelerator and co-host of the Passive House podcast with Matthew Cutler Welsh. I'd like to thank you for joining us for this special bonus episode of the Passive House podcast, recorded as part of the 25th International Passive House Conference, which occurred online in September 2021. Before we get started with this episode's interview, I'd like to thank the Passive House Institute and the International Passive House Association for collaborating with us to arrange these interviews. Also, a big thank you to our sponsors who make the podcast possible. Our founding sponsors are 475 High Performance Building Supply, Baxt Ingwe Architects, Glavel Foam Glass Gravel, Minutair All-in-One HVAC and Dehumidification Units, Mitsubishi Electric Train HVAC US, Partel, RDH Building Science, Rockwell North America, Stocorp, and Zola Windows. Our champion sponsors are Icon Windows and Doors and SIGA. And our stakeholder partner is NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. With that, please enjoy my interview with Benjamin Krick, researcher and a managing director at Passive House Institute. Well, welcome back to this special episode of the Passive House podcast. We have Benjamin Krick, head of component certification at Passive House Institute and member of the board of CEOs. We're really happy to have you here, Benjamin. Welcome.
Thanks for the invitation, Zach.
Absolutely, it's great to connect. So I thought we might start by having you introduce yourself to the listeners and to your work in Passive House, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, thanks. So as you just said, I'm Benjamin Krick. I'm architect by training, and I did my PhD thesis on straw bale building, load-bearing straw bale building, actually. And I'm member of the Passive House Institute since 2008. Lost many hairs over that, as you can see. But I like the work at PHI so much. So I'm really glad to spend the hairs. Because what I do, I think makes totally sense to protect the environment, to help society to be more climate friendly. And that's great to do something valuable with your life besides family and the stuff and so on, of course. But yeah, I like it very much.
So what has the experience of the conference been like so far for you? We're 2 days into the conference plus a day of tours. What has that been like?
Well, it's completely different from a present conference.
Yeah.
So I missed the participants so much. But the pandemic tells us we can't do it. So it's that way, and it's great to connect with so many people over the chat. And some were there of the presenters, and some of the chairs of the sessions were also at the conference. So we were maybe 20, 30 people. And it was great to meet someone in person and to meet the colleagues in person. We are in home office, of course, and I didn't know when I was together with 10 colleagues, and it was really great to reconnect.
So you had a small in-person experience then, it sounds like. Yeah.
Exactly.
So could you've presented a couple times at the conference already and moderated a panel. Would you be willing to share some key messages or insights or takeaways from those presentations that you've made?
The main presentation I gave was about embodied energy. So about the energy we need to produce the materials we build with. That's not it's connected to embodied carbon, but it's not totally the same. Mm-hmm. And I did this in two presentations, one short outtake in the plenary session together with Jürgen Schnieders and Wolfgang Feist and Jessica Roth-Smith. What is the key message? The key message is that it's first important to reduce the energy demand in the usage stage and the operational stage. And then if that is achieved to passive house levels, let's say, then it's worth to have a look at the building materials to reduce the energy which is used to produce the materials. And there we can see that it's good to use natural materials, regrowing materials like timber, like straw, or recycled materials like cellulose, for instance. But of course, you can't build a house from that only. You need to have concrete and some iron and maybe some bricks or tiles. And yeah, it's good to have a look to reduce, for instance, concrete, or to reuse tiles, for instance. Tiles, yeah, maybe last for a century or 1.5 centuries. And why don't use used tiles in a new building? That might be a good idea to the future, to go to, cradle to cradle concept, and maybe to do some urban mining. But well, the first priority is to reduce the energy demand in the operational phase.
And what do you see in terms of the scale of carbon emissions reductions on the operational side versus the embodied side, if you're doing a good job on both? I mean, what is why is efficiency first the right move?
Yeah, because if you are looking at the energy demand for heating, then you can reduce the operational carbon by, let's say, 90% compared to a standard building. In the materials, it's maybe 50% reduction, or maybe 60% reduction. But if you have a look at passive houses, then you can say 75% of the energy is operational energy, and 25% of the energy used is embodied energy, or energy used, which is used in the production phase of the materials. So the impact, even at the passive house level, of the operational energy is much higher than for the impact of the energy used to produce the materials.
Right. Even when the operational energy is being pushed to such a low level. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
And yeah, what we did is we excluded the energy which is stored in the materials. So if you have, for instance, a polystyrene insulation, then you can burn this material theoretically. And this energy is stored energy, and this energy will not be converted in some way during the life cycle of the building. So this energy can be reused. Yeah, and because of that reason, we didn't take it into account for the assessment of the building, because it's after the building there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you're reminding me that this is about embodied energy and not embodied carbon. It's so easy for me to be thinking about this in terms of embodied carbon, and there's little subtleties.
It's a bit different from embodied carbon. Why don't we go to embodied carbon? Because why don't we go to carbon at all? Carbon is a very, very important thing to reduce because of climate change. That's absolutely clear. Yeah, but if you have, for instance, electricity, yeah, we are going to renewable electricity system, and in Germany, our government will reduce. Maybe I don't know if they will succeed, but they want to reduce carbon until 2035 to zero. And yeah, so the carbon dioxide factor is declining, of course, to zero, and you can't use this factor for assessing a building, because if it is zero, then it's
right. It becomes meaningless. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And because of that, we developed this PER system, primary energy renewable, which is taking into account the whole life, and then the whole energy, the efficiency of the energy system, including storages and so on, and this in a completely renewable environment. And with that, we can assess buildings far better than CO2. And if we, this is also the way to achieve the complete carbon neutral energy supply system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we are thinking one step further than this carbon dioxide.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting work. One thing that we're hearing more from folks in North America, who there's a lot of excitement and interest in embodied carbon, as I know, as everyone in our community is aware, I think. And one of the claims that is being made more often is this notion of being able to sequester carbon in buildings.
Yes, exactly.
Do you see that when you're looking at the numbers? Do you see that as something that's realistic? Earlier in our conversation, you mentioned, a really great reduction in embodied energy is 50 to 60%. Do you see the potential for using natural materials to actually sequester more carbon than is emitted during the construction of a building, at least for the lifespan of the building, or is that that unrealistic?
No, it's possible if you have a very, very efficient building in operation. And it's absolutely a very good idea to store carbon, to sequester carbon in a building. But it's not a very wise idea to store as much as possible in one building. Yeah. So if you have the chance to build a home from a massive timber construction, then you need much more timber than for a lightweight timber construction. So you can store more energy and more CO2. Yes, you can sequester. What is the word?
Sequester. Yeah.
Sequester. Thank you.
Yes. You're right. Storing for the lifetime of the building.
Yeah. Sequester more energy in one building, but you have to be aware of the fact that timber is not available infinite, endless. So that there is, the availability of timber is somewhat limited. And it's of course better to use as less wood in one house as possible to be able to erect more houses with timber. But because if you need more timber in one building and you have not enough timber in some, then you have to use for other buildings other materials which maybe emit more carbon in their construction. And so it makes sense to reduce the amount of wood or of material you use in your building.
Great point, and a reminder.
It's a question of efficiency, right?
So and boundary conditions as well.
Of course, and boundary conditions. Yeah, absolutely right.
There's some echoes there with the whole question about net zero. Net zero energy in buildings.
Exactly. So it's a good idea to store carbon in a building. Of course, it's a good idea. And the little but is Passive House is all about energy efficiency. And so if the construction should be efficient too.
So what do you see on the horizon for yourself in Passive House or in Passive House at the large scale? What do you see coming down?
So I think the principles are very, very good and set, and Passive House is the standard for the future, I think. But it can only have an impact, a positive impact, if more people are going to build according to Passive House standard. And I think that's the thing we have to achieve in the future. And that is what I want to bring forward and what we all want to bring forward at PHI. We did many research for 30 years now. Of course, there are more questions to be answered. But I think Passive House and PHPP and so on is a very good tool we can use now, and to make others, or to invite others to use these tools. That is the big what do you say?
I'm hearing challenge, opportunity.
Challenge, challenge and opportunity. Exactly. Yeah. So you said just before, it's 6 o'clock in the morning for you, and you're not really there, and I'm not really there because I had lunch yet. So
that's perfect. No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. This has really been great. Is there anything else you want to add before we close up?
Yeah, of course. Build passive houses, have fun with it. I think you can have fun with passive houses and working at passive houses, and engage yourself and help to mitigate climate change.
Well said. Well, thank you very much, Benjamin. It's been great to speak with you.
Thanks, Zach, for the opportunity. And maybe you want to enjoy the conference, and tomorrow and the day after tomorrow we have 2 sessions left, and of course everything could be seen in the stream afterwards.
Yeah, incredible resource. Great. Thank you.
Good. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.